Welkom iedereen, welkom bij House of Khepera, live in conversation with. Ik hoop dat iedereen mij goed kan horen. En ik hoop echt dat jullie ook klaar zijn voor onze live in conversation with paulobinna vanavond. We beginnen altijd om 8 uur en we zijn klaar om 10 uur. We wachten nog eventjes totdat we zijn inschakelen en we zijn zo weer bij jullie terug. Ja, we zijn er weer. Ik ben House of Khepera. We zijn er weer vandaag met paulobinna, Sister Benji en King Karleon. Gaan we in gesprek met Paul en me over en als paulobinna, over de geschiedenis, de wereldgeschiedenis, de ware geschiedenis, zoals wij altijd zeggen. Maar het is, we gaan een overview van de geschiedenis geven en hopen hiermee een mooie basis voor jullie neer te kunnen leggen, zodat weet je, alle verwarring die er bestaat over is het nou wel gebeurd, niet gebeurd, er wordt van alles gezegd en hiermee hopen we die verwarring te verminderen, in ieder geval te verhelderen. Daarom gaan we in gesprek met het maken van de image timeline. Even kijken of ik iedereen in beeld kan krijgen. Even kijken of ik iedereen in beeld kan krijgen en unmute.
Oké, goedenavond. Moet ik unmute of muted?
Unmute. Waar ben ik weer verkeerd? Hier. Ha! Ja, ik ben er. Het is altijd even spannend, ik kan het nooit vinden. Ik zie jullie nog niet. Don, kom erbij.
Ja, jij hebt ons gemute blijkbaar.
Heb ik je gemute?
Hij zegt, because the host has stopped it. Dus.
Hoe kan dat nou? Heb ik gewoon verkeerde knopje weer gedrukt? Ik doe clear all juist. Clear all, dan moet iedereen toch juist te zien zijn. Hé dan.
I can hear you.
Yes, we are trying to get back.
I can see you as well.
Ja, ik zie je ook. Alleen, je staat hier. You cannot start your video.
En nu?
Okay, the host has asked you to start your video. Let's go.
Yeah. Now is working.
Oh, dat is altijd zo grappig. Here you are. Welcome, everybody. It's always the first minutes, always looking for the right buttons. Welcome. Oh, it's so nice to see you all. Welcome, Don. Welcome, Benji. Welcome, Paul Emme. This is our guest tonight, Paul Emme from the Lineage Timeline.
Oh, himself.
Yes,
Hey,
Paul
how are you?
himself.
It's been a while.
It's amazing.
Been a while. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's been a while. What are we going to do tonight? We are going to talk about the highlights of history, world history, how it really happened, of course. And King Don Karleon and Sister Benji are going to ask the questions, and I'm going to engage with you all on Facebook. So if you have questions, please drop them in the comments, and I will get it. We will wait for every section because there's a little bit of a delay on the socials, right? So it's just a few seconds, but we'll wait for every section to engage with you or to drop your question. We know Sister Benji from the tour, of course, and we know King Don Karleon from his music, and we know Paul Emme from the Lineage Timeline. Welcome again. We're gonna go right into it. First, what we're going to do is Don is going to do a recap from the sessions we did before, so you get an idea where we're heading at, and then we're going to start the session. Of course, I don't know a little bit about Paul. Paul's the lineage, the author of the Lineage Timeline. I don't know if you know. This is the Lineage Timeline, and of course, he's also a teacher. Did a lot of work with the House of Khepera. Helped House of Khepera a lot, and we are so happy that he was able to join us today. So, King Don Karleon.
Yes, sir. Otepu, much blessing to everyone watching us. Blessing to Paul. It's been a while since last year. Last time we chat, talk. Actually,
You're looking younger. What have you been doing?
Well, I've been eating a lot lately, trying to get off meat and just vegetables. So probably that may be the reason. But actually, I gained 35 kilos. Yeah, you say in pounds, right? But we say in kilos. 35 kilos since last year. So it's quite a lot.
Lockdown.
You see what happened? Well, actually, we've been like for almost 5 weeks now on the way into African history in general and African sacred science, aka spirituality. Specifically, we started with Professor Kaba, who introduced us, who did a little introduction into African sacred science, African spirituality, and different elements, components of it. Then we went on the next session with Professor Kaba, who went a little deeper into it, and who also bridged the gaps between ancient Kemets and some other lineage from the Bantu way of spirituality, specifically the Yoruba Orishas. And also he explained us a little bit about how to incorporate that science, sacred science, in our daily lifestyles.
Okay.
From that one, on the historical view, we went to Sister Benji, who actually highlighted the Black Madonna and how from ancient Kemet, the Black Madonna was, how could I say, transported, translated, changed into the White Maria, Mother of Jesus, during in Christianity, and specifically the Roman Catholic Church, and the different branch out of the Roman Catholic Church, and how they were embody the Black Madonna and Maria into their beliefs. Then last week it was my turn to speak about the Congo spirituality, what is Congo and what it stands for, and the spiritual side of the Congo beside the country and the people, just to highlight that because the Congo are part of the Bantu lineage and is one of the major groups in Africa, and how the exodus started, and just a little introduction into that. And from my point to you tonight is about the whole recap on highlighting those big events and historical facts from your lineage. So that's a little short recap on what we'll be doing for the past 5 weeks and the next coming.
Okay.
Wow. Isn't that amazing?
Yes, what we already did.
Wow,
all
that's
this-
amazing.
Yeah,
You
it
know?
is. It is. It is amazing.
It was kind of strange for me because having Paul on the studio, I mean, having Paul on the other side, actually, I'm starting to speak with the London accent. Well, I never speak on the London accent. Always use me Caribbean accent, and suddenly me start to speak with the London accent. I'm like, whoa, what's happening?
Well, I'm north of England.
Okay.
North of England.
I had to switch back with it, but yeah. So that's
Just to retort, do you know in England what a Black Maria is?
No.
If you say a Black Maria, it's the police vehicle that used to come to arrest people.
How sweet.
So the black, if you say Black Maria, I start laughing because I go back to when I was a young boy, and I used to say, "Oh, the Black Mariah's coming," meaning the police are going to do a sweep up.
Salvation is coming.
But you know that is really funny because I forgot this lady's name, Black Betty. There's also this rock song about her.
Yeah, Black Betty. Yeah.
Black Betty. That she used to be like a really enormous woman in America, and she used to come and pick people up and throw them in her van.
She was in Chicago, wasn't she?
I don't really remember. It could be, but she was like this very big. In Suriname, we'd say yipsy, big woman, and she would just come and pick you up. You know.
Mm. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I think that we are going to get into our questions, and you know, we have so much questions. I mean, just looking at the timeline, I really want to tell everybody, just order your timeline at Mr. Paulobinna, please, so you can get like a broader view of our history, because you know, I can't thank you enough for making it plain for us, because a lot of us are still thinking that our history started in slavery, you know, and you always love to say, yeah, I'm coming to Holland, and it's slavery. What's the other one again? Slavery, racism. And slavery. Yeah.
Except when you're talking racism and slavery.
Racism and slavery. So it's very important that a lot of people can see that, you know, our history goes way back, you know, and there are a lot of different myths in African creation. And when we're looking at your beautiful timeline, you know, I tell you, sometimes I'm looking at the timeline, I have to just pause, because the information is so dense. You know, you have actually managed to put all our history on the timeline. It's amazing. And one of the questions that we had is that you're talking on your timeline about 3 different creation myths. Yes, and our question is, could you like give us some more information in the fact that is any of that like solid? Can you prove that, or are you saying, listen, girl?
Because it says myth.
Yes.
You know that it's not. It's only I was raised with the myth of Adam and Eve, but I was told it was factual.
Yeah.
That God made a man, and then he was lonely, so he made a woman, and then they had children.
Yeah.
And then they started practicing incest,
Yes.
obviously, and started. So we were all bred out from incestuous action. I'm being mischievous. All I'm actually saying is that if you follow the logical route and take it not as a symbol, as a symbolic story, if you say that that's a factual thing of Adam and Eve and they had begat sons, and then but obviously they had to have daughters as well, and then they reproduced, it means that it must have been incest.
Well, you know, it's something that I was always thinking about, because it's said in the Bible that Adam and Eve were the only people on this world, but they had 2 sons, and then somewhere out of the blue, there are these daughters that they married to it. On the other hand, I just realized the other day that Adam and Cain and Adam is actually other take on Osar and Seth. I was just thinking about that, you know,
Well,
and I said,
that Abel, it'd be Abel and Cain. Cain and Abel.
Yeah, Abel and Cain. I said, what did I say? Adam and Cain. Yeah,
right,
Abel and Cain. Yeah.
Let me just give you know, there's a police training question that they give. They said that in the Garden of Eden, when it got populated, how would you always know Adam and Eve? How would you always identify Adam and Eve?
I know it. I know the answer.
Yeah, put it forward.
They're the only ones that don't have a navel in it.
That's it.
I know that one. Yeah.
So when you identify them. There's a problem with the story, because the myth, they said, was picked up in Babylon when these children of Israel were living in Babylon, and that the myth originally, Eve was not the first wife. Yes. The first wife was Lilith.
Lilith, yeah.
And then they use that to, in the story, they use it to represent the attitude of men, because you always get people talking about, oh, man was first, man this, man that.
Yeah.
But what they say was that in the story, Lilith, Adam was trying to put Lilith on her back, was trying to subjugate nature.
Ah, okay.
So that's why the sexual position, what's called a missionary position, with the man on top, where the woman's pinned down under the man, they call that Venus observer in Latin. Venus on her back. So if you look at the symbol, the circle with the cross beneath it, that's the symbol for female. That's also the alchemic sign for Venus.
Yeah.
So Mars is the circle with the arrow.
With the arrow. Yeah.
So in the mythology, they say that Adam was trying to subjugate Eve. Eve just went, subjugate Lilith. Lilith just went, no, I'm gone.
Yeah.
And so she went out, and so you'll see a lot of stories that Adam then became, let's say Genesis 1:26-27 says, God said, let us make man after our own likeness, and God made man, male and female created he them. But then Genesis 2:16 on, you'll see that Adam is made first, and he doesn't have a female part.
Yeah.
So therefore, they take the side. In Hebrew, apparently, what I hear is that it means side, not rib. So you'll actually find this, people think that men have got one less rib than women.
Yeah.
So they'll teach all of this thing, and this is how the myth confuses people.
Yeah.
And then, so what happened was, this is where God makes a female counterpart who's called Eve. But then the serpent comes back, and in the full version, the serpent is Lilith, who represents wisdom. Okay. And she comes back and she says, don't be putting up with his stuff. You better get wise, sister. So then she gives him, because remember, there are 2 trees in the garden, the tree of life and the tree of knowledge over good and ill, of good and evil. So then Eve takes the apple, gives it to Adam. They then become aware and conscious of their nakedness. So then they say that God then curses the serpent, as in Lilith.
Yeah.
And then she, you know, said, and then says to the woman, in pain thou shalt bring forth fruit. In pain, well, I always say this: in pain thou shalt bring forth fruit. If I wasn't using gravity to give birth or whatever, I say pushing this way when gravity goes that way, that's going to give you pain. And so they gathered all of this misogynistic claptrap, package it into the Bible. Sometimes I call it the Bible, B-U-I-B-U-L, as in Bible. And what happens is people repeat things. They read it, then repeat it without actually thinking about what's being said there. So then we go on to this story of incest. We go on to this story. And then you'll find in esoteric circles, they actually talk about Lilith as being one of a demonic entity.
Yes, because I know that they talked about her as being a witch, the first of the witches.
Well, but you see, this is where you get, for instance, James the First to authorize the Bible. He translated. It was translated from Hebrew, "Suffer not a witch to live." But what it actually says is, "Suffer not a poisoner to live."
Oh.
But because the women were the ones that are dealing with the herbs and the medicines, medicine, remember, is medi means middle, cine and cinema means movement. So it means to bring the body back into balance, which is ma'at by any other name. So you see, what happens is we have this attack upon the female principle, attack upon the origins of people. So they say that we were born in original sin.
Right.
So people have to come along and then tell us what to do for us not to be bad.
Not to be bad.
So I've looked at this for many, many, many years now, because I was raised in a Christian home. My dad was who raised me was a Plymouth Brethren reverend. My mum was a mission secretary of a missionary society, and so you know my godparents were, two of them were missionaries in Southeast Asia.
Wow.
And so I was raised in the house of the book.
Yeah, so you know all of that. Yeah.
So it's
you know, I do see some links between if you're talking about, for instance, atom and the word atom, you know, the original.
Amen, amen, ra. Oh yeah. So you see the creation myths you're talking about, I think there's 4 on the timeline in actual fact, because what happens is we have the creation myth from Bishop Ussher as well. So you see, we have the Kemetic ones. I'm just going down the timeline now. You have the Kemetic ones, but you see the Christian one where they talk about the creation myth. Bishop Ussher, you see it on page 13. Bishop Ussher that taught that the world was created on the 24th of October, 4004 BC at 9 a.m. Because God clocked on. I always say God clocked on. He said, I'm going to start my working day, you know.
Right now.
So you see, he did a lot of this is a brilliant man from Ireland. Utilized the gospel, the Bible stories, the books of the Bible as he saw it. He researched into it, came up with this theory. And so what happened is they transposed this back in time. So it's even before the first Hebrew. It's about 2,500 years before the first Hebrew, if you take this dating system. So there are 3 creation myths. So there's the myth of Ptah, the Memphite theology. That's 3,200 BC. That's the one that started around about the beginning of the dynastic period. And then you go back to before 4,200, the Hermopolitan creation myth. And then you go back to the first one around about 4,700 BC, which is the Heliopolitan theology. Now, what you're talking about, the dating system, remember that these are dates that were agreed upon by European scholars. They call this the short chronology when we're dealing with Kemet. I played safe, which is why on the cover, the first page, it says short chronology. But if you got the good sense to get a book by Robin Walker called When We Ruled, he deals with what's called the long chronology, which dates the dynastic period back to around about another 1,000 years before that. So this chronology that I have on here, when you pick up most books on Kemet or Egypt, that's the dating system they're using.
Yeah, yeah, because I was reading this book, and it was about, they were, for instance, they were looking on the Sphinx, and they saw that there was certain marks on the Sphinx. Yeah. And then they said, well, you know, the time that the Sphinx was built and the dating system that they are using for that, it's impossible, because it's supposed to have like rain. I think it's
sorry. Go, sorry.
I think it's Beauvais. I think his name is Beauvais. Yeah. And he said, you know, there's some certain marks on the Sphinx that you can actually see that it's impossible, because it signifies rain, and it hasn't rained in that area for thousands of years.
Well,
so when they build that, you know, really amazing.
There's a book by Ivan van Sertima, edited by Ivan van Sertima, called Egypt Revisited.
Oh, that's the book. Yeah.
And then when you open it up, you see the image of the Sphinx with the pyramid surrounded by an inland sea.
Oh my gosh.
So what they're actually alleging there, this is dating those pyramids, the Great Pyramids, back to around about 28,000 BC. So they're just pushing these things right just by the image. Right. But I was, for instance, I've got a thing I call the Book of Dumb, because forgive my language, I do some really dumb shit. And what happened is, I can remember when I went to Egypt back in about 1990, and I was with 3 friends, and we were walking up the causeway behind the Sphinx. And then I start looking around. I'm looking around like this, and a guy called Dada, one of the brothers there, he said, well, what are you looking for, Pete? And I said, I'm looking for the Nile, River Nile. He said, River Nile's not by here. I said, of course it is. River Nile is by here. He said, he goes, no, he's nowhere near. He's 7 kilometers back in Cairo. I said, no, I've seen River Nile, pyramids, Sphinx, pyramids, River Nile. He says, it's nowhere near. And there's me looking for this. I'm going, wait a minute. And then I realized what it was. When I got back to England, I went and checked the image I saw, and it was a grafted photograph to give an impression of Egypt. The River Nile, the Giza Plateau, and the pyramids.
Yeah.
So in my mind, I was,
Yeah, you were thinking about that.
Yeah, now this time I'm teaching about Kemetic history and all of this business. I've started teaching about that. I'd already done my first timeline back then, horizontal timeline. But then I was going out there to the actual place, believing that now I was about 32,000 years too late. Because they say that, the Nile might have, but they've estimated that's when the Nile would have been there. Then they take some other pictures which are of canals and what they call flood areas, and they take those and give that impression as well. So you see all I can say to you is that when we did this Wakanda thing, and in the Osirian position, this is called, it's actually a symbol of death. It's a dead position. So I'm a bit kind of guarded with it. And it has a flail in one hand and a shepherd's crook in the other.
Yes.
And I always say that the flail is to waft away the flies off the bullshit. And then the shepherd's crook is a question mark. And you must always be questioning anybody who's giving you information. You must always question it. Because what they taught us in school was not to question.
Yes.
We just took it.
Just,
and then
just
spits it back out.
Yeah.
So in the national curriculum over here, the values, aims, and purposes, it said that the curriculum should enable children to challenge discrimination and stereotyping. Challenge. You tried challenging a teacher? You put a challenge in and you don't know how to do the challenge, your ass is getting kicked out of school.
Yeah.
So you see, this is one thing where I mentioned this online the other day. I think I was on LinkedIn, on someone's LinkedIn page. I was responding, and I just said that we should be getting debate taught in schools, how to debate, but also how to what we call the 6 R's: reading, writing, and arithmetic should be balanced with reasoning, respect, and responsibility. And the reasoning, as James Brown used to say, take it to the bridge. So that's your bridge between your right and left hemisphere. That's the true relationship, is through reasoning. And then we get this information. So I listen to people. So usually it's very masculine. Forgive me again. Men tend to have this thing, who's got the biggest todger? Who's got the biggest, want to whip it out, say mine's bigger than, I know more than you, I know this, I know that. Well, I'm this and we're the original and you're not, and you're this, that, the other. And I'm telling you, I've been at this game like 35 years and I get tired of it. I've seen guys come and go, guys who had they had all the answers, they had all the knowledge and whatever. And I love Franz Fanon when he closes Black Skin, White Mouse, and he says, "Oh, my body, making me a person or a man who always questions." Man meaning mind, a mind who always questions. And that's how I try to be. I just, be humble towards the knowledge, serve the knowledge, and then when you find out, like I was doing a session for a good young brother called David Manning in London. I was online, and Robin Walker was listening to this precursor session that I did before doing the actual session. And I mentioned about the deanery number system 0 to 9 being carved in the form of snakes in the Temple of Saqqara. And so what? No, hold on. So then after a while, Robin says, Brother Paul, the thing about the snakes being carved in, it was a piece of information, misinformation given to Ivan van Sertima to disrupt his book.
Really?
So people were feeding fake knowledge.
Yeah.
So that if it was taken without research, it would be nonsense. And then people come along and then they use that one piece to prove everything else is nonsense.
Nonsense. Paul, you was talking about the 6 R's. I got reading, writing, arithmetic, reasoning,
respect, and responsibility.
Responsibility.
You see, one of my life coach, when I came back from Brazil and I was in need of help, a guy called Yashwant Patel, he just said, the only amount of responsibility, the only percentage of responsibility for your life you got to get to is 100%.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a difficult one, because when you're looking at that, it means that we can start blaming, the system. We can blame everybody else, which is Black Lives Matter and everything else.
Yeah.
But what happens is trying to get the responsibility of how we act within all of that. We got to drive to as big a percentage as possible to direct our lives. Right. So that's not easy. That's personal development. That's not giving yourself away to people's influence.
Yeah. Roughly, I thought. Yeah, I have to go to the next. You got a question?
Yeah, I got a few comments and a few comments. Yeah, because we're heading to the second part, I think. Suhulaya Winkler, who was Suhaila. Thank you. Suhaila, because I just wanted to say, I know I pronounce it not, the way it should be. So Suhaila, welcome. Nice of you.
Where's that name from? It's very, very cool. Where's it from?
Suhaila, I don't know. Suhaila rings like
Arabic. Sounds Arabic.
From the Dutch.
From where?
Arabic.
Oh,
Arabic. Okay.
I think it's Arabic.
Arabic. Well,
Yeah.
she's asking where she can find the timeline at House of Khepera, of course, and also at paulobinna. So when you live in England, so it's better to order it at paulobinna's. And if you live in the Netherlands, you can order it at House of Khepera. She says, "Hello, everybody. I'm happy to be here. Well, I'm happy you're having you again, because last time she joined us with the conversation with Don, of course, and she had some really interesting questions. We are looking forward to your questions, Suhaila." And Ty Jordan is saying, yes, most of us know that we got passed down by our parents and are being further programmed by the system, school, and so forward. Questioning everything is key, but I think teaching our young ones how to do good research is very important. So how do you do good research? That's a very good one.
Very good.
Thank you for that.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So how do we do?
Question.
No, not question. That's a good
Tell me what you read.
It's a simple thing. Is that when you question, you usually question. Like for instance, I was taught not by in school. I was always taught by my martial arts instructors, and guys around that scene. You said never leave a session with answers.
Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Because what happens is it said you must always be questioning, and people say, well, that means you don't get comfortable. I go like, yeah.
Of course.
So you know that thing is that there's a search that goes on, and the biggest search is for self.
Yeah.
The biggest.
Know thyself.
Yeah, that's how they say it. The biggest search is for self.
That's a good one.
Yeah. We have some questions and we really didn't get to those, but I'm looking at the time. We got like 8 minutes for this segment. And we wanted to know, Brother Paul, is the building of the step pyramid by Imhotep, is that like the next big event that happened after, let's say, the unification of the two lands?
What,
you know?
They're saying, let me just, I want to jump something. I'm going to talk for Browder, that guy, that mischief maker from the States, Tony Browder. But we were on a conversation one night, and he was actually citing some of the work by Boval and others. And what he said is, let's take this, the step pyramid by Imhotep, boom, it's like, yeah, right? Okay, cool. Now, 150 years later, we have the building of the Great Pyramid, and then the second pyramid, and then the third pyramid on the Giza Plateau, and all the small ones. The mathematical accuracy of the Great Pyramid is unrivaled. Yeah, it's unrivaled. In fact, there was something given out on this Quora, it's called. It's a historical website. It said 9 major points about the Great Pyramid. But if you do get this book, Egypt Revisited, there's an article in there by a guy called Wayne Chandler.
Yeah.
And Brother Wayne dropped some science in this ayah. Yeah, he dropped some science in here. And one of the things is page 117 of Gods and Men, Egypt's Old Kingdom. Brother Wayne puts in there about the Pyramid Age, and then he talks about the building of the pyramids. And basically, the Great Pyramid is, like I say, it's unrivaled. And without boring with you, you put 2,300,000 blocks of stones together so finely that you can't put baking foil between it. The casing stones that were round about 4 meters long and about 1.5 meters high were ground, as William Flinders Petrie said, with optical precision. So you know when they grind your glasses, they say that's how accurate they were. And there were, all of this thing was joined with no cement or anything, no sealant. So that is a massive jigsaw. And what Wayne was saying was that the Nippon, he mentions the Nippon Corporation, who tried to build a pyramid for technique, not for size. in the, I think it's 1970s. Every single step of the way, they tried to do it with the implements, you know, the hammers and chisels and the implements that they said they used at the time.
Yeah.
And every single step of the way, they had to resort to modern technology, including helicopters. They had to bring them on a ferry, pull these things on instead of floating them on down the river on and anyway, just to jump forward, that when you have this, imagine this technology that built this thing, and it was built 150 years after Imhotep. Wouldn't you think that all the rest of the pyramids will be getting better? But they don't. They don't. So what happens is, what Tony was saying, is citing, is that those pyramids are going back, way back. Pre-Kemet, they go way back. Yes. Which means that the idea of civilization in this modern terms, because all that the game is to keep things close to Europe and European supremacy. That's all it is. So that's why I call it the corral. We get roped into thinking, we get tied into thinking that this is, you know, going back, 3,000 years, we're going back, 1,000 years, oh wow. And I sit here going like,
millions of years.
Well, this is the way you look. Going to Indian culture, they will go back to around about 120,000 years on a continuum. So, but then you're talking about population levels being different. You're talking the attitude towards nature. You're talking about the balances with nature and between human beings as well. So you know, it's a whole different thing.
This is what for example, the Congos are saying, like the story go beyond 5 million of years, and every 26,000 years, the Earth kind of switch or turning from side, and everything is recycling, and you know.
Well, I made a mistake it's about 2 years ago. I wanted to do a timeline showing, you know, I was fascinated between dinosaurs and human beings, because I was raised on the Flintstones. Meet the Flintstones, they're a modern Stonish family. And so, and it finishes, we'll have a get. Never mind. But what happened is, I wanted to look at this, and I ended up doing an 850 million year timeline. Once I got it done, because I was immersed in looking at all the different ages and the measurements and all this, spent about maybe 5-6 days on it. When I came back to 9,000 years, I was like, oh, wow. I'm going like, but then thankfully, because when I first got into consciousness, when I went to Manchester, there's a work of Helena Petrova Blavatsky in the Philosophical Society, is it Philosophical Society?
Theosophical.
Theosophical. Sorry. Theosophical Society. And they have a story of human beings going back millions of years in different forms, sizes, and everything else. Right. So, do I believe that? Got it on the table. I've got it on the table as a theory.
Right.
You know, were you there when they crucified my Lord? Were you there when they crucified my... Well, actually, no, I wasn't. But some of my ancestors might have been. Yep. But it wasn't that long ago. It's only 2,000 something years, isn't it? Yeah. So, no, it's not 2,000 something years yet. It's under 2,000. But what I'm trying to put to you is,
we've learned from Professor Khepera, like once you got we get back to 17th of your lineage, you already have more than how many millions?
If you want to see history, look in your mama's eyes.
Yeah.
If you want to celebrate your history, give your mother a present on your birthday.
Yeah.
That's all you have to do, and then make sure your children do that with you. You know, but through the mother's line. Males, we only hang out 2 to 3 generations.
You know, Paul, that I said that to somebody, that the lineage from the woman is, you know, like everlasting, and the lineage from the man dies, and he almost killed me.
What were you doing at the time?
But you know, because men just don't, it was like, yeah, what's your proof? How can it be? It's not. So what is the science behind it, please? So we can.
It's called mitochondrial DNA.
I know. That's what I said.
So the science, yeah, but the science behind, what's this? I once got into it was an argument where I was at a party, and I was at a party, and there was a brother there dressed all in black shirt, black hair. He had his hair straightened and back in a ponytail, and he had a white partner, and she was dressed in a white dress, and she was like almost albino complexion and blonde hair. So this is their thing, was the, you know, they were a couple, and it was like black and white, literally like light and dark and all of this. And this brother came up to me and he said, are you the one? No, it's me and Lance. He said, is it you two been giving my mum information about Black history and all this? And we said, oh yeah, is your mum Ruby? Yeah. I said, yeah, we've been giving her some. Where did you get your evidence for this? And I said, evidence for what? Well, who said that the traffic lights were invented by a black man? I was like, of course they were, the red, green, and gold. What do you mean? And so he's going, what? So I've been a bit flippant, because I've been having some liquor and whatever. And then he said, he goes, oh, where's your evidence? I says, wait a minute, you're a Christian, aren't you? And he says, yeah. I said, so you believe there was a man born of a virgin, that angels came and announced the arrival to everybody, to shepherds who were watching their flocks at night. You believe that this boy was born of a virgin, that by the age of 11, he was able to out-reason the wisest priests in the land, that he did his first miracle, turning water into wine at the behest of his mother. Then he made the blind see, the deaf hear, the lame walk. He cured palsy, leprosy. He fed 5,000 people with 5 loaves and 3 fishes. He walked on water, calmed the storm. He raised the dead. He died, came back, and then floated up in the sky. Then you ask me for my evidence about a traffic light? And I say, I'm not dissing the faith. I'm saying be consistent. If you're going to ask about Black achievements, ask about some of the miraculous things you get taught as being the real deal. Be consistent.
Yeah. Could you please explain what the mitochondrial DNA is? The genetic code. Some of you.
Well, the genetic, what I said to you before, is DNA carried only by the female. And that lasts, so you can trace it back after generation going back. Whereas the male DNA lasts 3 to 4 generations, 2 to 3 to 4 generations.
Okay.
So that's basically that. So they showed that symbol in Kemet with the throne crown on the head of a set.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So there are certain things that are there. For instance, you'll never see images of men in Kemet with wings.
Mm-hmm.
You never see that. You'll see male. You see Horus as a falcon, but you won't see a male figure with wings.
Why is that?
Because it's about the female, the power of the female to travel those distances.
Oh.
Down the gene pool, you know, going there, she go fly.
That's amazing.
So imagine this. Can you imagine what happens when someone comes along and say that to have sex with a woman, you must pin her down?
Right.
She's meant to be on top so she can come right up. That's why you see the phallus of the male, which is the tekenu or the obelisk, is this way, with the male on the back like Geb.
Ah, okay, yes.
And then do you do rug dancing? Do you do rug dancing over there in Holland?
I wonder what that is.
You know, rug, that slow dancing, you're whining.
Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I got to try to get my shoulders right. Sorry. So if you're doing wine dancing, I was always taught that the man puts his back on the wall. So if the woman don't like the action, she can step away. But I've been finding that there are guys grinding up women against the wall. I'm going like, eh? But then it's always happened, apparently. But I'm an innocent, you see. I learned the culture late.
Yeah, you're really innocent.
Yes, of course.
Oh, it's really good that we're talking about that sister. I brought this up because we have a next part of the question that is about the Olmecs, and I was really thinking that you know, the part that people are always trying to tell us that you know, the first people that lived in the Americas were the people that came out of Asia. They walked over the Bering Strait, and but then they found this this skull in Brazil. I think they called her Lucia, and they were totally flabbergasted when they found out that it was a Black woman. And I heard some really, you know, I'm listening. You're talking about question everything. These people are trying to say that this Lucia came from Australia. Now, I'm just thinking just a little bit logically, I think. Australia is really far away from Brazil, the way I see it. But I think that if you're going to be in a boat, if you're taking the Gulf Stream and you're on a boat and you're going to end up, if you get out of Nigeria or Ghana or Benin or whatever, and you're on a boat, you're going to end up in Brazil.
That's called
what I think.
That's called the southern. Let's see, you have the northern equatorial current, the equatorial countercurrent, and then the southern equatorial current.
Mm.
So to hitch out of West Africa, you actually go, you actually either if you're high enough like Senegambia, you pick up. I'm trying to think which way this is going now. So there's the current going like this, equatorial countercurrent. Then there's one going like this up to Europe from the Americas. So it goes to Europe, down to Africa, then goes straight across the Atlantic. And then there's one that goes from, goes down as far as Angola and then sweeps up. That's why the slave coast, so-called, was the slavery coast, went from Senegal and Gambia down to Angola. And it's all to do with the currents. It's nothing to do with seamanship or anything like that. It's to do with the currents. So you go with the flow. You
go with the flow. And I really thought that was a really strange excuse, because I thought, you know, what is the problem of saying that this Lucia came out of Africa? What's the big deal? You know, because now
they hate Africa. The Brazilians, you got to remember that the Brazilian culture is based on the Portuguese. Yes. The Portuguese were the first to expel the Moors in 1258. That was after, 538 years or something like that. So there's a hatred, ingrained hatred and disrespect for Africa. I was down in Brazil for 3¼ years. And not good, man. It's a beautiful country. The people, when you speak to the people, fantastic. But then there's an underlying thing. Because, for instance, if you need to understand the Iberian, Spanish or Portuguese mindset, their patron saint is Santiago Matamoros. And Santiago, St. James, the Moor Slayer. So that's right across the board there. So if you go to places like Evora, just not far from Lisbon, they have a statue there of one of their great heroes called Geraldo the Fearless. And you see a picture of Geraldo the Fearless. He's standing there with his hand on it. He's a knight in armor and a chainmail, and he has his helmet on, and he's standing there with his hand on his sword, and he's holding the head of a Moor, of an African.
Right.
So you have this kind of dynamic going on, which if you don't understand the history and the depth to which that history is driven, you won't understand what happened to the Portuguese when the Portuguese go over to South America. And then around 1532 was when they had their first Africans landed. That's 1532. So North America, they always say 1619, but I'm just rolling my scroll because I've not been teaching much recently. Geraldo the Fearless on the timeline is on page, well, it's right between page 2 and 3. You see a picture of him on there. And then it was D'Souza on page 2. That's the first guy who started the enslavement of guys out of Angola, etc., who took them through to Brazil.
Yes.
And what you'll see that they actually call in Brazil, you see my guy, and you see in Brazil they called the slave ships tomberos, and tombero means tomb. Wow. So basically they were saying they were like floating tombs because of the death rate.
Right.
So
yeah.
when you, I thought I knew history before I went to Brazil, and I was blessed because the first day I went out, I went to buy flowers for my ex-wife. I went to get, because she's a Voshun, so I went to buy some sunflowers, and I couldn't speak Portuguese, and so the women on the market couldn't speak English, and then they called over to a guy and they asked him, "Fala inglês?" And he said, "Sim, fala inglês." And he came over, and he happened to be a history teacher waiting to go into the foreign service, the Intermarachi, and his name was Hermes, as in the messenger, wow. Machado, as in machete. Wow. And so he's the guy put me on to started talking the Brazilian history, the Portuguese history, and I was like, wow. The only thing I knew about Spain was the Moors getting kicked out in 1492. So I really got into the psycho history of the Brazilians. That was the important thing. The psycho history.
Totally lost. I don't know where we are now because of I don't know the Portuguese history and I don't know the.
Well, that's why on the timeline you'll see that there are two things. It says southern enslavement and northern enslavement.
Where can I find that?
That's on page 1.
On page 1.
Page 2.
Yeah.
Okay, page 1 and page 2. Can I put it back? So perhaps you can take us with you what you have been talking about this last
minute. If you look at the top there,
is it
come
here?
back from the camera a little bit. I think. No, forward again.
Yeah.
Right, it says at the top there, southern enslavement. So there's a black line just before 1500 going vertically, and that line is 1492. Yeah. So from that point forward, it says there's a circle with like 2 triangles, and it's talking there about discovery of America. And then you got some maroon and red lines. Maroon is for Portugal and red is for Spain.
You see it, Empress?
I think it's here. Right? This is the corral you're talking about.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah, you got 2 corrals. You got the Southern European corral, which is at the top, and the Northern European corral at the bottom.
The top, right?
Yeah.
This is the bottom.
Yeah, right? And then what you'll see is, if you pull it back along a bit, you'll see that there are lines there. There's one blue for France, pink for England. Yeah. And then you got a lovely orange color for your beloved Holland.
Yeah, right.
And so so those 3 lines, those are the lines where the 3 Northern European countries started to enslave Africans. And then underneath it says America from 1619 in black. That's the enslavement period in the USA. Then you'll start just behind your 3rd finger where you're holding it in there, you'll see there's a US flag, and that's the duration of the United States of America.
Wow, amazing. We got connected to that is the Olmecs, and then we go back, of course, dealing with the.
But what was it about the Olmecs?
The Olmecs are.
You have to go around about 1000 BC.
You have to go back.
But because there are so many discussions about the Olmecs. Some saying that he's South American, he's not black. Or they are not black, they are, you know?
The Irish monks. They are the faces of babies.
Something like that.
They are the faces of jaguars. They were made from molten rock and fell flat on their faces before the rock set, making their
so
features
you know all
flat.
the stories.
Yeah, well, that's the work of one of the best things you can do is look for the work of Dr. Ivan van Sertima.
It came before Columbus.
They came before Columbus, and it's a speech he did in Camden in about 1982, 84, I think it was. And they did that for Karnak House, brothers Amon Sabah Sakana. And you can go online and find that. You can go online and find that speech, that lecture.
Karnak House.
So you look on there. So the full lecture is on there.
Yeah. Okay. So you are saying, referring, if you want to know more about the Olmecs and what their origin
Olmec civilization. He gives, I think it's 10 or 12. I have a PowerPoint and like a short presentation, just putting in shows about the Olmecs.
Yeah.
And the Olmec civilizations happening around the foundation of Judaism.
Okay, can you tell us more about
that's the date. So the Olmecs is say there's a guy called Van, is it not Van Daniken? Oh, sorry, is a guy who was he was challenged because he said that the ancient Kemites had gone to America. Van Daniken, I think he's Van Daniken. Who did Chariots of the Gods? No, who did Chariots of the Gods?
Yes, Eric van Daniken.
Right. Well, it's not him. it's another guy who did this thing about the travel and the fact of ships could travel across the Atlantic. And sorry.
Is it Thor Heyerdahl?
Thor Heyerdahl, thank you. That's it.
Yeah. Thor Heyerdahl.
So Thor Heyerdahl actually got people from the Sudan to build a ship made from papyrus reeds.
Papyrus reed, yeah.
And what happened was, this is one thing we know about the intercontinental currents, because the rudder broke, but it still carried on over to the Americas.
Wow.
So he was proving that yes, they had ocean-going ships, etc. In the case before Columbus, Ivan van Sertima also talks about the fact that they were saying that Africans didn't have ocean-going ships, and so he laughably said that so they go to the European visitors and say we want a ship, and then when you want the ship, he said next week. So they gave him a 1-week ship. A 1-week boat. But if you ask them, we're going on a long journey, they say, well, now what you must go, there's a place called Palos in Spain. Palos is the embarkation point for Christopher Columbus.
Yeah.
And there they have 3 replicas of the Nino, Pinto, and Santa Maria. And all I can say is, those guys that got in those ships and went on the Atlantic either have balls of steel or they're extremely stupid, because they're like small things. Yeah. Small boats.
Well, you know that they got a lot of people out of jail and said that if they would, they either stay in jail or go on the boat with Columbus. So that's why a lot of them did, isn't it? But what's also something that I wanted to say, because these Olmecs, if you see in the back of the Olmecs, you can see that they have braids, what's,
you see the thing is, what he says is, he says that there were these heads, stone heads, between 6 and 9 feet high, weighing between 25 and 40 tons. So they're not put there by accident. So whatever I said, they're undeniable. In fact, there's a few of those heads I know, guys. In fact, I've got to do it one day. Do some photo anthropological journalism, and I know guys who look like them. There's one of them. There's this little Igbo guy down in Liverpool. I look at it. It's a Pastor Brothers, but then they're trying to say that they're the faces of Irish monks. What are Irish monks doing there 1,000, 2,500 years ago?
They had
what's this? It's 1,500. It's 1,500. 2,500 BCC. You know BCC, don't you? As a dating system. It's before Christopher Columbus. 2,500 years before Christopher Columbus, Africans were tripping across there.
Yeah, and you know, if you one of the things that I was just checking the other day is this place called Kilwa, and Kilwa is off the coast of I think it's Kenya or Tanzania, and there has been a lot of commercial trade going on between them and the kings of China. You know, they're actually, if you go to Zimbabwe, you're going to find pieces of China porcelain over there. There is actually a drawing, Chinese, how should I say that? They wrote down that they got a zebra. No, not a zebra, a giraffe as a present from the people from Zimbabwe and Kilwa, you know. So one of the first things what the Portuguese did, of course, when they came there is just make sure that they bombed the whole place flat. So now you can only see the ruins, you know. So all of this talk about, you know, Africa didn't have no boats and stuff like that.
No, yeah, so they call them the Melanesian Islands out that way as well. So trade with China, you know, there's all of these things you'll see about the first shogun of Japan was an African. There's all kinds of stuff. You see, it's hard. What happened was when Europe started to travel, it's as though they took a photograph and said, well, this is what they're there and they're there and they're there and they're there. And so no one traveled before Europeans. That's basically what they're implying. Exactly. So you've got there's a lot of things where we just have to say, look, this is nonsense. Get it out your head. They told a story placing themselves in this is we're the ones in control. This is how we got there. They're in control now. Okay. Now you got to remember this. In England, we have a song called "Rule Britannia." Britannia rules the waves. Britons never shall be slaves. The reason they have that song. People say, oh, yeah, you know, they're saying, yeah, we were slaving people, and so therefore no one can ever slave. No, it's because the English were getting slaved by the North African Empire, the Moors and the Turks. They call them corsairs. There was even a corsair who was Dutch as well. Yeah. And they were slaving all as high as Iceland, down the coast of Ireland, Scotland, down, they even had Lundy Island, off the coast of the Bristol Channel. They were there for 7 years flying the Moroccan flag. They were taking European, the original Baltimore, they took the whole village into the North African trade. And so this is one thing we need to be looking at. While we praise the Moors, they were slavers. And the kickback and response to that slavery coming from the father and elder brother of Henry the Navigator, Prince Henry the Infante. What happened was that they took over the Ceuta, the city in Morocco, and which they still have today. Spain has it today because it crossed over with Spain and Portugal. And what they did, the retaliation was to start slaving, not the Moors, but the people from Mauritania for the first point. Then Henry the Navigator's guys went all around, Gil Ennis and these people. In actual fact, what's really funny, if you go onto the Portuguese airline, right? Yeah. A lot of their fleets are named for Portuguese explorers.
Yeah.
So I was coming over from Brazil and going down to Nigeria on planes that were named for these same guys who were going around the coastline of Africa, going around it, and started the enslavement of West Africans who got nothing to do with those Africans who had become Muslim and who were enslaving Africans and Europeans and anybody that could get their hands on.
Okay.
Right.
So that's one of the reasons I turn around and I say we must question all of these things.
Of course,
Right.
we do. We have to do. And everything you're saying now is also a big question mark, because I hear what you say, but I can't follow the line as in what you were talking about the West Africans and they. But there will be another time we get into that.
What do you mean you don't follow the
Time frame. On the time frame.
The time frame, I can't follow.
You're talking entirely from 1492 on.
14?
1492. There's a section on there. It says Barbary Coast Pirates.
Where? On which plate?
I shall find it on the plates here. It's there. It's 1700. It's page 2. It says Barbary slavery. And then it says on page 2 as well, the Ottoman Turkish Empire.
I see it now.
And it's a white line that goes all the way through to Ottoman Empire ends it's about 1922. So that's the Turkish Empire. You see the guy with the turban?
Yeah.
And then it's got a white line, and it's showing people, it's got enslaved Africans walking across. These were the Muslim, or I say Arab Muslim, then Turkish enslavers of Africans. So I'm very careful to differentiate, because there's political use of Islam, and then there's those who follow the faith. But both Christianity and Islam have been used to attack Africa and justify attacking Africa for, well, let's see, the Islam, in the case of Islam, from AD 642. So the enslavement process across North Africa was carried out by the Arabs and later by the Turks.
Okay. Thank you for that. So it's more clear now. I have one question and 2 comments. Nana Adoamar, hi Nana. She says that is also why they bring a lot of stolen people from Senegal to Suriname. I don't know what she's recommending, but I think it's about the story about the enslaving.
No, it might be about the currents.
It's about the current, yeah.
The currents is how they did that. Henry Constantine Dunant Kwasi said, could it be that the melanin gave you the means to increase your vibration limitless?
There's a lot of people talk very positively about melanin and the importance of melanin, and it's very important that for instance, you were black not because you were cursed, but because you were first. And it's important to know that the people who have the most melanin, for instance, I'm very much middle class. You can see that I'm light skinned. When I was a young child, I used to be out in the sun more. And so the older I've got, the lighter I've got, because I'm not getting my melanin dosage up. But you see, I'm of mixed parentage. So my mother's English, my father's Igbo directly. So what happens is I'm middle class, but I meet people who are very dark and people who make Benji look middling. And I say, you see those people and they believe they've been cursed. They've been taught by the Christian faith. They've been taught by other people's ideologies that they're dark because they're cursed. No, it's because you were first. And if melanin was money, you'd be a melanin millionaire. And all the other people who don't have melanin will be in poverty. But you see, what happened is those who have now think they're the ones who have not. So it's a piece of craziness going on. So when we're talking about melanin, it's very important to feel good with what God has blessed you with. But many people don't feel that. And it's like, they think that, yeah, there must be something wrong with us. And if you're black, there's something up. So yeah, it's a case of study the melanin. But then when people start talking about taking it to different frequencies and they start talking about that, well, that means you have to learn to use it. And one of the best ways you can do that is become daylight people. Because I know a whole heap of Negroes like to go out at night. They live at night when there's no sun. And we're supposed to be going in the daytime. That's supposed to be our time.
True that.
People of the sun.
Yes,
children of the sun.
I have another question from Sohaila. She said, well, it's a first question, of course, because she said hello before. Oh, that's the second question. Is there anything in Kemet referring to flat Earth?
Oh my God. Here we go. God gave.
For you, Paul.
No. What did I laugh with this? I say, okay, then. We've got what I do. I table the idea. I've traveled around the world. I've been quite satisfied with the global rendition of the explanation of the Earth rotating, etc. So when I first flew to the USA, for instance, we flew over Iceland, near to Iceland, and we went on this big curve, right? And then down Newfoundland and down the coast till we landed in New York. So I was like, why is that? I'm used to looking at a flat map. And the flat map goes straight across. You just go straight across whatever. But with the curvature, unless the airline was lying to me, could be, there's a curvature. Now, what happens is that with the flat earth theory, because they show Geb lying down, a newt forming the bridge over there, and then the daytime between her arms and legs is the daytime, and then the sun is born from her vagina in the morning, travels across the day sky, goes to her mouth, and then her body becomes the night sky, which is why there are stars all down it. Yeah. Because of that, they've taken that, some people take that literally to say that the Kemites believed the earth was flat. Yeah. But also they used the Tekenu to do the estimate between the curvature of the earth and the angles that are formed by the sun at a certain time of day. I'm not an expert in it. So therefore, I will say, take the two ideas, right? And I've got someone who's close to me who's a flat earther, believes in the flat earth. So I just say, look, I go like, go with what you're going to go with. Whatever you believe it. Deal with it. If it makes you happy and comfortable and whatever, believe in that.
Okay.
I'm like,
but I say that's the interpretation of Geb,
yeah,
etc.
Could you? I tell people like when they're having those kind of questions, you just have to look up to the Dogons and the way the Dogons explain it to it, and there is no one else that's close to the truth according to astronomy better than the Dogons, and what they explain is what I do.
You're being very mischievous there, Don Karleon, if I don't mind me asking. I've been trying to be very conciliatory and diplomatic.
Can we just go to Paul and then go back to Don? Don, don't leave. Paul, could you explain what Geb is and what Newt is?
Geb is the male. Okay, if you ever look on the, hang on, if you go, I think on the timeline, you're going to go back to about page 5, I think it is, because you'll see that symbolically, they represented aspects of the earth and nature through what are called the Neteru. Neteru are the natures of the one God. So what happens is the, hold on. I thought it was on here. Sorry, I've not been teaching with this for a while. No, it's not here. So what we have, if you go online and punch in Newt and Geb, N-U-T and Geb, you will see a relationship between the earth and the heavens, the earth and the sky. So the earth is not Mother Earth in this case, it is Father Earth. And it's a male reclining on his back. And then sometimes he has an erect phallus pointing up skyward. Then above him is the goddess Nut. and she has her hands on the ground and her feet on the ground. And what happens is, like I said, they represented the earth and then the sky as Nut, and then the space between her arms and legs was the day sky. So today, for instance, when they show the birth of the sun in the morning, they said that was Nut, goddess Nut was giving birth, and you'll see renditions of from her vagina, a lotus blossom would come, and then the sun would rise from it. And then that would travel across the day sky. Today, so go to two things. In England, I don't know if you have the term over there in Holland, but the Kemetic term for the underneath, as they say in Jamaica, they call it a woman's underneath, i.e. the vagina. They will call the tuat or the duad. So it's T-U-apostrophe-A-T in English. But then if you say T-W-A-T, that says twat, or twat is another name for vagina. They use twat in the USA. So the tuat, the duad, is the name of the vagina in that principle of the underneath from Kemet. So what happens is today, the smell of the vagina I know in England, they call it the flora, as in the flower, the smell of the flower. And the original smell of the flower, of course, is the lotus blossom or the rose in Europe. So then what they said is that day sky, the sun travels tracks across the day sky, and then at nighttime, it goes back to the mouth of Nut, and she swallows the sun and her body. So it's like she's eating food. And then in the daytime, or the nighttime, sorry, it goes down her body that's full of stars, and then is reborn again in the morning.
So if you're saying the sun rose, that's a...
Yeah, of course, the sun rose in past tense. Yeah, yeah.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul.
So all of those things, once again, it's the feminine principle. It's these are dynamics that are there. And then when you're looking at that power symbol of the rose, the power symbol of the lotus, that's right across. The lotus represents the universal matrix, the gateway to the matrix. The word matrix means womb. So all of these things that they're putting down, they remove the female, remove the feminine, start to talk about it being weaker, the weaker sex, the weaker whatever. And then people are walking around with a disrespect. I'm sick and tired of hearing brothers turning around and, you know, it's like they talk about being righteous and all that, but then still carrying on with the same bullshit. They're still whatever towards the females and the feminine.
It's quite difficult. It's a daily battle. So
don't talk to my ex-wife though. Don't do that.
I have a question. Sohalai still has some more questions. She's saying, okay, the Akan spirituality talks about a father creator of our mother, Earth, and 7 major gods over the days. Amun-Ra is the god of Saturday and head of the Udgar 6. So the 7 days are governed by 7 gods of creation. And so we fall under our day, God depend when we born. What do you have to say about that?
Oh, quite interesting.
Hey, could I say this?
Karleon.
Yeah. No, what I'm going to say to you is that the days of the week are a relatively new phenomenon. And what's happened is there's been a lot of these synchronizing the days of the week with all kinds of things. The daily vibe, yeah, that's what I sent. I sent that out. So what happens is they're saying about the vibrations that represent those different days, the different vibrations of the different iron metals and whatever, right? Now, so like today's blue Monday, red Tuesday, yellow Wednesday, purple Thursday, Friday's green, Saturday is indigo, and then Sunday's orange. So a lot of these things, they're talking about the vibrational qualities of each one.
Yes.
The days of the week We use Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So today is Moon Day. Monday is Moon Day.
Yes.
Tomorrow is Tuesday. Oh, sorry, yesterday was Day of the Sun, Sunday. Yeah.
Yes.
But Tuesday is Tu, the Norse god of war. Wednesday is Woden's Day, Odin's Day. Thursday is Thor's Day. Friday is Freya's Day, the goddess of marriage. Saturday is Saturn's Day, the Roman god of agriculture. Then we're back to the Day of the Sun. Yeah. So what happens is people have made these things fitted in. It's syncretic. It's syncretic. Because what happens is, syncretic means that we, like for instance, if I have a, what, I've got my book here. I put my bag elsewhere. What happened is I've got this little book. I went for a security briefing in Brasilia. So I was a diplomatic spouse. So my ex-wife was a diplomat out in Brazil. So I went to this briefing, and the briefing was held by military personnel, ex-military personnel. They were teaching us about the dangers that we'd be facing domestically on the roads in Brazil, also about terrorism, also about what to do if you do get captured, if you get taken hostage, how to get a safe room in your apartment, etc., etc. So I bought a little book to make notes in, and the cover was St. George and the Dragon. St. George and St. Michael smiting down Satan are both renditions of Ogun. So when you're looking at Ogun from Yoruba tradition, they were talking about who are the military saints. So I got this book and I made all my notes. Hang on a minute, it's over here. I made all my notes with it. And so when people, with it, you see, it's been alleged I wasn't being serious when I was in Brazil, right? So this is my notebook with George and the Dragon.
On Jose.
Yeah. So, and it says there, São George.
Yeah, St. George.
Yeah. So you see what goes on. I had all my note taken about all the things that we're supposed to be doing and what to do into shock and everything. Yes. What are the things you're meant to have in behind your safe room door and all of this stuff. So I did not play with it. You understand me? So syncretic means we synthesize with another thing, because Africans weren't allowed to worship their own ideas of God. So they blended them with the saints from Christian tradition. Yes. So what I'm saying is that when we've got these things, I'd ask Sister to look at the sources about where they got, who recorded this thing, about each of the seven deities out of Kemet. Because you might be finding that the Kemites didn't deal with seven. But this is something that's been made to fit in with it. Yeah. Actually, so I can't say, because I'm not sure. So when she gives the reference point for it, where that came from, who validated this thing?
Well, I could add extra from what you just said, that from the Congo culture is part of the Congo sacred science, aka spirituality. So it's the same principle. Actually, that's the one was being brought to Brazil, because the Congo was the first to enter Brazil. So it's part of the African spirituality.
You see the number 7 is a division of the 28 days of the moon. It's a lunar cycle. So that's why, and you see the lunar cycle has more of a direct effect on us, on our inner qualities than the sun. The sun's very external, but the inner qualities, they say, are lunar. So the relationship with water, for instance.
And since we're 80% of water, so then
very powerful. That's why you got lunatics.
Lunatics, I was just going to say that. Yeah.
And of course, the lunar cycle is the menstrual cycle.
Right.
And how they blend in, for instance, on Osera set, the male and female, they blend them together by making Oser a lunar deity and Oset a solar deity. So she has the solar disk, and he has the lunar disk, as does Jehuti or Thoth.
Right.
So it's a look into the inner world. So that's why, for instance, in the story of Oser, his body is cut into 14 or 28 pieces, dependent on where in the Kemetic history we're talking? Who's recording the myth?
Wow.
Because you got like a 4,000, sorry, you got, well, probably a 6,000 year continuum of that myth.
Yep.
Wow. We have a question, and that is about, you're talking about this prince called Khepera.
Kamwazret, yeah.
Yeah, who's that?
Yeah. He's the son of Ramesses II.
Okay.
And he was, they call him the first chematologist, or Egyptologist, but the first chematologist, because he was actually saying at the time of his father, when his father was on the throne, he was actually saying that the Kemites needed to go back and resurrect the power of their first dynasties, go back into Kemetic history and start to reimpose some of those the powerful dynamics. Now, the reason I love to use him is because I for instance, there's a LinkedIn page I interact with, and there was a European guy. I think he may be I think he was his doctorate or something like that. I can't fully remember, but he started waxing lyrical about Greek philosophy. And so Greek philosophy comes from the age, you have the Greek Dark Ages, they say estimated 1200 BC. Then you have the philosophical age, which they're saying is within the first millennium. So you're talking from 600 BC, 600 BC to 300 BC.
Yeah.
So this guy was talking about, well, of course, the Greek philosophers said so and so and so and so so. And I just said to him, I find it interesting you're saying this and making it a big reference. I said, because the Greek Dark Age, they say, began in 1200 BC. At that time, Prince Kamwazret was suggesting, son of Ramesses II, was suggesting that the Kemites went back to the greatness that they had 2,000 years before. But you don't even give any form of credence to that. You just wax lyrical about this borrowed form of philosophy that the Greeks did from Kemet. And he was like, oh.
It makes me think of what you're saying, makes me think of Sankofa.
Sankofa works totally that.
Yeah, it is. It is Sankofa.
And you see, the thing is, when Tony Browder does a brilliant thing, he calls it Sankofa and Kofa. Go back and fetch it and then like apply it now for the future. So it says Sankofa, Kofa. I had an argument with him.
Can you please explain what Sankofa is and where it's from?
Sankofa is the symbol. It says go back. It's a Ghanaian Akan principle that says go back and fetch it or correct it. And it says there is no shame in going back and fetching it and correcting it. This is more in line with the Hebrews, because in Hebrew, they have no name for history. They only have name for memory. And it's zakar, they call it zakar. And zakar is active and experiential. It means it's not just something you talk about, like some happening that happened and back there, whatever. It's actually talking the depth of memory. So on that symbol, the heart symbol is the Adinkra symbol of it. But then you also have a bird that walks forward whilst looking back. And so they say that it's walking forward and looking back, meaning you're going forward in time, but also you're recounting with your memory about what happened.
Yeah.
The heart, remember, is the significance there. And Tony Browder, on one of the tombs he opened up from the 25th dynasty, found, that's right. And that's facing, to me, that's facing the right way round as well. Because you're going from the inner self, which is from the left, moving towards the right. So the inner is to the left and then going to the right. That's leading out. Now, what happened is the heart is the first organ to form. So if you're looking about what that heartbeat the day that everybody's heartbeat stops, we're dead. When the heart triggers, your life begins. When your heart stops, it dies, it finishes. So the symbol of the Sankofa, very powerful. So on that one, that was drawn up by Shem Bulgin, you have the egg in the middle with the symbol of the throne crown of lineage on it as well. So what happens is, many people, they say that Sankofa represents history. So I say the only way I'll take history is if you spell it with a Y, because that represents womb, the story from the womb. So that's your continuum going all the way back through the female line, through the mother principle. But that is memory. That's not history. It's not external facts and factoids and that happened there and that happened there. No, that's the conscious or the unconscious, subconscious memory that lies within us all. So so were you there when they crucified my Lord? Well, yeah, of course you were bloody there, because you're here now. So you must have been there.
Yeah.
You must have been around. You may not have been in the vicinity seeing what happened, but you were there at some point. It's in your gene pool, your generations, gene.
Yeah. There are some more questions from Suhaila. She's really on fire. There are two questions, but we only have 15 minutes left, and then the session is over, of course. And so we have to see what other questions you're going to asking Don Karleon and Benji. But Suhaila said, I'm going to choose the one referring to what about the Sumerian and Babylonian history and start of the human race?
So Sumerian and Babylonian history, what they always do is limit the amount of history of Kemet by only referring to dynastic Kemet. So they always say, well, the Egyptians, so they're saying the Egyptians started 3,200 or 3,100 BC. And they say the Sumerian cultures and Babylonian cultures, and there's another one that people, Arcadian, I think it is, or something that everybody starts talking about these things that they're much older than blah, 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 blah. What they're not doing is saying that Kemetic culture was pre-dynastic as well. So you have dynastic Kemet, and then all dynastic Kemet is at the time that the two lands were joined by Pharaoh Naama or Menes, and what happened was that's from that point. So yeah, the Babylonians are doing certain things, the Sumerians are doing things, no one denies that. But then generally what they're doing, they're trying to prove is like this thing they must do that no Africans, no black folk, no nothing must have been doing anything before anybody else. And I always ask them, why you're so knowledgeable about this thing when you didn't actually raise your own culture until 830 BC? And that was Greek culture, which was multiracial. So why would you be there? How come you know everything about all these other people?
There's something that I wanted to ask about Kemet, because, there's always the confusion with Kemet and Egypt. So can you please explain when did Kemet become Egypt, or was Egypt already there? Could you please explain
323 BC, the Greeks invaded following a Turkish incursion, and the Greeks took over, finally took over the land. So the Persians invaded. There was a last restoration by southern Kemites. And then what happened was the Greeks finally came in and took over. At that time, they became Egypt. Okay. And from that point, these Egyptians, which were called the Ptolemaic Pharaohs, Greco-Roman Pharaohs, from that point, what they did, they mimicked, they copied Egyptian culture. So many people look at the pharaohs being mummified, they look at the mummification, they look at the renditions. I mean, in one of your museums there, they have a small Egyptian temple actually built in situ. Well, that is Egyptian. It's not Kemite. Wow. So, and then finally the culture, so the political control finishes, But then, and you'll see on the timeline, there's a green line and a black line. The black line represents the politics. The green line represents the culture. The black line stops in 323 BC because that's when the Greeks took over. So the black line, it says on there, page 6, there's a red circle with two, like an hourglass shape, two triangles. It says end of political Kemet. But what happens is the green line above it continues. And the green line continues until Kemetic culture is finally ended by Emperor Justinian in AD 535.
Right. Yeah, that's when they.
So he closed the Temple of Philae, the last Greco-Roman temple that was practicing Kemetic culture.
Yeah.
What's the thing of his wife? His wife, Theodora, was the woman who stopped the teaching of reincarnation.
Okay.
So you have an ending. It's like he's a Christian Byzantine ruler. They stopped the teaching of reincarnation within the Christian faith. So you see, they're an interesting couple because they say that she was a lady. Excuse me.
Yeah, she was a prostitute.
No, excuse me. She was a lady of the night. And so because she basically made her way to the top,
right,
via being with different men, and then finally ended up with, so she was very good at what she did.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So she got there, then she influenced the emperor and had influence with him. And then they say this is how this idea of we just have one life, just this one life. She didn't want to believe she was going to come back and suffer for what she'd done. And she's actually revered you have to look at it this way, in certain feminist circles, she's revered because she's a power player.
Right.
Yeah.
She reminds me of Wallace Simpson.
Oh,
Wallace Simpson. Yeah.
Another one.
Another power player.
One. And yeah. She did wonderful things with cocaine, you know.
Oh, I believe that.
Yeah, she freakadeaky.
Everybody, I don't know, Don is just, I think he'll be back in a few minutes, but we still have 10 minutes before 10.
We still have 10 minutes, that's great.
Yes, 10 minutes before 10, and I would like to ask, to give Benji the opportunity to ask the last question about the numbers on the timeline. And then I think that's a really good one to close with.
Right. Yeah, because you have these numbers on the timeline, and let me just look at it. There you have different names. Like for instance, on page 8, you got like Judea, and then you got number 2, and then you have like Greece, number 3.
Oh, right. That's the Blashville Mural.
Right.
The pictures, the little pictures. No.
Why not?
Because I'm playing hard to get. Just say please. Pretty please.
No,
that's on the what it is on the in the Blashville Mural is a color mural, which is on the ceiling of the Library of Congress in Washington D.C., which currently is the largest book depository in the world. Tony Browder introduced me to this. What I can do is show you my my mouse pad. This is what it looks. Sorry, let me get the right way up. Yeah, this is what it looks like when you're sitting underneath it. Wow. And so here you see this female figure with 2 cherubs, and she represents wisdom because it's actually built in reverence to Minerva, the Roman goddess Minerva, is a goddess of knowledge and warfare. So when you sat down in the rotunda, in the circle underneath, you look up, you'll see this. And what happens is you've got a series of 12 figures and the 12 figures represent cultural aspects which influence the United States of the America. So the oldest one that's there is, you'll see, is the Egyptian one. You see it there?
Yeah.
Now, do you remember I said that you don't find male figures with wings? Yeah, so this male figure has got wings. There's also another thing about Washington, D.C. I'll just tell you this now. What happens is there's no pictures of the Prophet Muhammad, may peace be upon him. There are no images of him. Yeah? But if you go to the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C., they actually have a carved figure of him in the roof.
Wow.
With Islam being represented as one of the great influences upon law and justice. And outside now, you actually have a sign that says, the Supreme Court, it says something like, sight of the image of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, blah, 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 right? Of this image. So if you check it now, what happens is, I did make the difference between Kemet and Egypt. This is an Egyptian figure. That is an Egyptian figure. It is a white dude. Yes, right. It is a Greco-Roman white dude. So on the timeline, I was talking with Tony Browder about this, and we were saying, Tony was saying, well, Egypt, you know, what, Egypt's the older civilization than the next one along, which is Judea, the source of religion, and then Greece, the source of philosophy. Mm-hmm. But what I said, I said, whoa, I'm not going to put a white dude at the beginning of the timeline as a Kemite, because the Kemites were not white.
Right. So
I put down an Egyptian, but it means the Blashville Mural is out of step. The oldest chronological factor there is Judea, 1530 BC. So you'll see that's the second image, and it says number 2.
2, right.
But then down the timeline, you go to Egypt is number 1, and it's over the top of Greece, number 2.
Wow, amazing.
So that's why I've put it down there. I could, in actual fact, have put Greece further back than Egypt, but I didn't want to do that because people would really get confused. Then it goes Rome, it turns around to Rome for administration, Islam for physics, and don't forget the historical relationship between the USA and Islam, because the first country to acknowledge the United States of America in 1776 was Morocco.
Ah, okay.
And then they started to rock with the North African, the Barbary pirates, which is why the Marine song, from the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, which is in Libya, North Africa. Wow, so they were fighting with them over what was going on in the Mediterranean, trying to stop the enslavement processes, etc., etc. Okay. So then that's Islam. Then you've got, it says, the Middle Ages for languages, Italy for fine arts, Germany for printing. So in the Library of Congress, you've got 2 copies of the Gutenberg Bible outside of the reading room. And then you've got Spain for discovery or theft. Yeah. You've got, which is the Western side, not Portugal, Spain, because they brought in Columbus. They had this Italian guy, Columbus, working for them. Yeah. Some people think Columbus was Spanish. He wasn't. He was working for the Spanish. And so America is named for Amerigo Vespucci, another Italian working for the Spanish. Yeah. Then the next one, you got England for literature, France for emancipation, then America for science. And the American figure is a picture of Abraham Lincoln. And what you see is him. He's looking. He's got a broken engine. He's got his resting. He's got these books there, Yeah, so he's got a broken engine. His right hand is resting on books containing knowledge, but then he's staring down at the foot of the Egyptian who has all the scrolls.
Yes.
So that represents the knowledge taken from Kemet.
Wow. That's
so
amazing.
there's another thing. So when I teach the actual timeline, we do a thing called the flow of ancient knowledge of how the knowledge goes from Kemet to Greece, to Rome, to Arabia, to North Africa, around to the Moors, into Spain, and then from Spain it gets distributed into places like Holland or the Netherlands, and then every year you celebrate it where you've got this Turkish bishop coming over called Saint Nicholas, and then the gift bearer, the guy bearing the gifts is a Moor called Zwarte Piet. So they celebrate getting the knowledge out of Africa every year. But y'all go, it's racist.
Oh, of course. Thank you.
I had to put that in, didn't I? I had to put that in.
More.
More.
More. Yes, we have to go back. Oh, I mean, we have to come back. We have to ask you if you want to come back. Let me make a good sentence.
Yes, please.
Would you please come back, because we have yeah.
There is a law that wasn't bespoken.
Again?
I said to Paul, there is a law that wasn't bespoken.
Of course.
Questions that wasn't be answered, and time just fly like we're just having a conversation for 10 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah, it looks like it was only 10 minutes, but it's really 2 hours. And I really enjoyed it. Somebody asked, you didn't answer the question about the what was it again? That I said, okay, then you can come back to, but then you were left. But I didn't get done opinion about the Akan philosophy. Did you say that it's the same as in Congo or not? But what we are going to do, we are going to answer this question
on the next chapter. Yeah,
we're gonna do a recap.
Watch this. What I want to say to you is this, right? Anything that I'm talking to you about, you should be asking me, how do you apply that in your day-to-day life?
That's the next question.
Because that's what I say. Jewish peoples speak Hebrew. The ancient language is Hebrew. They don't have a word for history. They have no time for it. It's memory. It's zakah, active and experiential. So no matter what I'm talking about, I can spurt out all these bloody facts about this, that, and the other. How does it help me make sense of my day-to-day life today?
Next time. Do you want to come back and
apply on the bomb too as well?
I'll deal with that, definitely.
Yeah, can we do that another time? I have to do that. We have to do that another time. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for watching. We still have only 1 minute left, and then it's 10 o'clock.
Incredible.
Paul, Obina.
It's 5 to 9. It's 5 to 9. 5 to 9.
Yeah, in England, we 5 to 10.
No, it's 5 to 10. You said it's 10 o'clock. No, it's not. It's 5 minutes to.
No, not here. Now it's 10 on my
no, on your watch, that's wrong.
I know, but it's time. So we have 4 minutes left. I want to say thank you for, I want to say everybody who's online, thank you for watching. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for your questions. If you still have questions, you can drop them in the online in the group or in the live session, I have to say. If you have questions for Paul, you can find Paul at Lineage Innovations. Right, Paul?
You're much better if you have them. Send them to House of Khepera and then link them over that way, because my website is still not up and running properly. You see.
Oh, you see. So if you have questions,
still hiding out. I'm still hiding out.
He's still hiding. So come to House of Khepera and we will link you to Paul. If you need Sister Benji for a tour, you can hook up with Benji Margaret on Facebook, right? And if you need a host, another host, or some music, some really good music from the Congos, you can hook up with King Don Karleon. We will see you next time with Brother Kimani Nehushi.
Oh, right. Good.
Yes, about the African languages and the culture. So we'll be back.
Of course, Brother Paul is coming back, maybe 2 weeks from now, because we still have a lot to talk about, Paul.
You know, I found out in DNA. You know, I'm your brother.
For real, we been to all
my DNA, my father's side goes from all the way from Igbo land down to Equatorial Guinea and into Congo.
That's
Here
the
you
Bantu
go.
family.
Yeah.
Here you
No borders back then.
Here you go. Okay. Thank you all for watching. Next time in conversation with Kimani Nehushi. And they will be back. Thank you all. Next time.
Take care. One love.
Jumbo, love, Mbote.